Then I'd like to talk a little bit about future travel expectations. So, what can you expect when you may come to an airport and go to get on a flight? So, I've kind of broken this into next 6 months or near, which is what I'm calling near term, and then longer term after 6 months. So, in the next 6 months, you're going to see less flight options. So, if we had, as an example, and I'll just pick Delta, who historically we've had 9 flights a day that go to Atlanta that provide you connections to, anywhere pretty much domestically and several international locations around the world. Now we have 4 flights a day. And I think that's what you're going to see. You're just going to see less options for flights that you're going to be able to avail yourself of for the next 6 months until the industry really stabilizes and things hopefully are starting to come back in the right way. I think you see higher airfares. The airlines are going to have to deal with the fact that, as an example, I'll use Delta again, who I think is doing a really good job right now on the social distancing piece, in that they are only selling 60% of the seats on any given flight, which allows, obviously, for that social distancing on the flight itself. I'm sure all of you have seen some of the news media. Uh, Reports on some flights that are just packed with people. That's going to have to stop, in my opinion, if we're going to get a good recovery and the airlines are going to get a good recovery of air travel. Otherwise, I believe folks will be more hesitant if they're seeing airlines trying to pack the aircraft on a continuing basis. So again, Delta I think has done a good job with that. But what it does mean when you're operating at 60% of your capacity, if you're completely full with that, versus where the airlines have been, which is operating north of 80% capacity prior to COVID. The only way you deal with the revenue side of that, for the most part, is to raise fares. And I do think that we will more than likely see, maybe not initially as the airlines try to bring people back to fly, but over this next 6 months, towards the end of the fall and into the end of the year, that we will see airfares rise. You might as well plan on bringing a face mask with you for your entire journey. Right now, all of the airlines are requiring facial masks to be able to fly. Uh, we, as airports, from an airport industry perspective, most airports have not mandated that yet, although I believe most airports, including GSP, are highly recommending the wearing of face masks throughout, again, the journey and in the terminal building. Uh, Airports have a little dilemma about enforcement of that from a legal perspective of trying to mandate it. So for right now, we're taking the road of just making it a highly recommended thing to do. If the governor were to do something in that light and mandate it, or we're also waiting for the Department of Transportation potentially to make a nationwide mandate for that to occur, then we would obviously at that point require anyone coming into the terminal to wear a face mask. Potential for temperature checks at airports, you'll see that happening at some airports today already. And mostly that's been done so far by the airlines. So out of GSP, the only airline is doing that is Frontier, and they are doing temperature checks of anyone traveling on their airline prior to boarding. There is a lot of discussion in the industry as to where that should occur and who should be doing it. Right now, there appears to be a leaning to have the Transportation Security Administration at the security checkpoint actually provide those temperature checks if they are going to be implemented. And there's some question with that. Obviously, that passengers are already into the terminal building at that point. So, do you want to let passengers get that far before you might do a temperature check and find that you need to ask somebody to remove themselves due to the fear that they might have something? So I think that's still going to play out, and we're really governed, and we'll take our lead by what the federal government decides to put into place here going forward.